If you went to Amazon.com and searched on the term business strategy, do you have any idea how many listings that would pull up? 100,905 books on business strategy. Think about that for a minute. If you read one book a day for 3 years, you'd knock out about 1,000 books. And that means you have 300 years left. It's not going to happen. Think about the names of these books. I've read a number of them, nowhere near 100,000, but think of the titles. Blue Ocean Strategy. It's about finding the clear water where none of your competitors are. Big Think Strategy, about thinking big. Kind of a good cop, bad cop book called Good Strategy, Bad Strategy. There's a book called Strategy for Dummies. I haven't read it. I think it's probably pretty good. Strategic DNA, The Lords of Strategy, The Art of Strategy, Thinking Strategically. Think about just any word that might match strategy, and you've got the title of a book. That doesn't even get into that whole genre of strategy books based on Sun Tzu's Art of War. I've read one. It's a lot of fun. It wasn't very helpful. But there are tons and tons of books on the art of war, and strategy is all about beating the hell out of your competition. Every lieutenant of Jack Welch who ran a division of GE and gone on to bigger success has also written a strategy book. Okay? Every professor trying to get tenure has written a strategy book. Is there any wonder why there's 100,000 of these books out there? Is this starting to give you a clue as why there's some confusion about setting strategy in your company? Well, the strategy guys aren't the only ones that have the problem. The execution guys have the same problem. Now, they haven't written 100,000 books. I searched on Amazon yesterday to figure out how many business execution books are. 5,927. So it'd only be 18 years if you read one book a day. Okay? But between all those books, no wonder we're confused. No wonder we don't know what to do. So here's what happens. Or here's the problem, really, between the two, ultimately. The strategy books don't tell you anything about how to execute. They just list the coolest strategy that they think works, that works in their company. They give you a ton of case studies that half the time aren't related to the model they're showing you, but it makes them look good to tell the story. But it doesn't tell you how to execute the strategy. Now, on the reverse side, there's the execution books. The execution books really don't tell you about which strategy you need to execute. They don't talk to each other. And that's the missing link about strategy and execution. So think about what happens in this environment with your company or with any company. The CEO reads one of these sexy new strategy books that comes out, buys a copy for everyone in the company, gets the senior leaders together, and they lock themselves in a room for 2 days, and they figure out how to figure out this new strategy that's really, really exciting, but they don't deal with how to execute it. So what happens? They go back to what they were doing before. The strategy that might even be a full binder full of tactics gets put on the shelf, and they go back to what they were doing. And next year, they find another sexy strategy book and do the same thing. And about 3 or 4 years, they go, why am I reading all these sexy strategy books? Let's just do what we're doing. And that's the problem. Strategy at this point becomes nothing more than doing it faster, doing it better, doing it harder, and doing it higher. Run faster. Let's just do more. When you do this, your strategy is very one-dimensional. Just do more. Okay? It's incredibly stressful because there's pressure on everybody with the same set of resources to do more and more and more, and it wears your team out. It takes a toll on your company assets and expenditures. The expense level is really high. If you want to grow, you've got to throw more bodies at the problem and more money at whatever you want to do. But ultimately what happens with this is that in this effort to go forward and move faster and jump higher, in doing all of this, all you do is you look at the competitors and I say, I'm going to do that too. And eventually the competition, because they're all following the same strategy, ends up doing the same thing, and there's no differentiation between you and your competitors. And the only way to win is to do more, faster, and higher, and frankly, it just doesn't work. It gets down to asking a lot of the right questions. So I'm going to start by asking you a question. Are you moving rocks? Or are you pushing sand? Sand are all those things that happen in your business on a day-to-day basis that generates the cash flow and generates the profitability. Let's go through kind of a quick list of these items. Sales calls, production, providing service, invoicing, counting the money, all the things that you do in running your business and providing your product or service to your customers. That's the sand. And if you don't push the sand, you don't have cash flow. And if you don't have cash flow, the game ends. It's like Monopoly. Remember that game? Who's the first one out of the game? The one that doesn't have any money. Okay? So you got to be good at moving the sand. Rocks, on the other hand, let me tell you what rocks are. Rocks are initiatives, projects, new programs that help you push more sand. Simple definition. Doing something to improve your business so that you can find more sand, push more sand, get more money for the sand you're pushing, that's a rock. Rocks are strategic. Sand is tactical. And to grow your business, you have to be moving rocks and pushing sand at the same time. So let me ask my question again. How many of you are moving rocks and pushing sand? How many? I'm going to venture a guess in this audience that everyone's pushing sand and doing a pretty good job, because you wouldn't be here. And I'm going to guess that most of you would like to push rocks, move them into the hole, or you wouldn't be here. You have to be good at it. As I said before, if you're not good at pushing the sand, you're going to be out of business. And very few of us are really moving rocks. Let me see if I can put this together for you in a picture. This little hole is your business. I know it's an unusual picture for describing your business, the big money pit, right? Here's where you are right now. Here's where you want to be in the future, at the top of the hole, and you are working your way up. Okay? At the top of the hole, around the top of the hole, is a pile of sand. And to run your business successfully, you have to push the sand into the hole every day, every week, every month, so that it adds up to profits and cash flow. So this is what's going on. You're working like this. You've got all your team pushing this way, and the sand is moving into the hole, and it starts adding up, and you're moving towards the top. The more sand you push in the hole, the less distance to the top, right? But that's expensive, right? What are your options if you don't have any rocks to move? Just to push more sand. More people, more equipment, more resources. It's an expensive, very expensive way to grow. On the other side of the hole are rocks. Actually, they're not a pile of rocks. They're scattered all around the top, but this is how it works for the picture. Each rock represents a particular initiative or project that will improve your ability to push the sand. And if you're working on a rock at the same time, you end up pushing one of the rocks into the hole. While the rock's into the hole, the same amount of sand gets you further to your future and where you want to be. Got the idea? Well, here's the question. Which rock should you move? There's not just 3 at the top of the hole. There's probably 25 or 30 or 40 rocks to choose from. And how do you decide which rock is the right rock? Selecting the right rock is a difficult task. And I guarantee you, if you try to move all of them, you will get all of them 1 inch closer to the top of the hole, and you won't get any results. And this is one of the big strategic errors that companies make, is they try to move all the rocks at once and get nowhere on any of them. Here's the key: less is more. You got to find 1 or 2. Trying to move all of them gives you this incremental progress, and it can be done, of course, if you're someone like FedEx or GE or Apple or Microsoft, or name the major multinational corporation who's got lots of money to throw at problems. They can move 20 rocks at once, and I guarantee you they are, but you guys are not parts of those organizations. You're not the head of those organizations. The second thing is, out of those 20, you might move the wrong one. Okay, you might move a rock that does not align with your strengths. And growth is tied to leveraging your strengths. If you don't work on your strengths and you move a rock that's not aligned into it, your strength just might go away. And what got you there is not going to get you there any longer. You're going to be destroying your success by working on something else. Third thing is, you might not be ready to move the rock. You might identify the rock you got to move, but you don't have the capability to move it right now. And that might be somewhere down the road, and you've got to find a rock that gets you ready to move up. The idea really is to find a series of rocks that add up as you're moving towards the top. A sequence that makes sense, that builds the growth in your company. So how do you decide? What you have to do to pick the rocks and make this easier is 2 things. You've got to figure out the context of your company that creates clarity so that you can figure out which rock to do. And then you've got to create a vision for the future so that you can make sure the rocks add up. So, context. Context is things like core purpose, core values, core competencies, core customers, and your core promise. Vision is like where you're going to be 10 years from now if you're successful at your context, where you're going to be 3 years from now, where you're going to be 1 year from now, and finally, what are you going to do in the next 90 days? And that's where the rock gets moved, in the next 90 days. In our next segment, we'll be working on context so that you can create clarity. We're going to kind of go through these definitions of core purpose, core values, core customers, so that you can get a handle on what that is in your company, so that your company can be aligned about what you want to do and get to where you want to go. The segment after that will be working on vision, which creates your sense of direction, so you know where to add up your rocks, pick the rocks so that they add up, you get where you want to go. When you have clarity and direction, context gives the clarity, Vision gives direction. Selecting and moving the rocks and pushing the sand gets easier and easier. And that's what we're going to work on in the rest of this workshop.